All right, so where's 88 going? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Again, before I get started, this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. If you need to invest or if you want to do anything, then it's up to you to consult your financial advisor. Please read the disclaimer. And with that, let's get started. So let's play with this. I went with Kraken as one of our data points because it gives a little bit more data than some of the other exchanges. But whatever exchange carrying ADA, if you follow this project, you probably already know that it's a pretty darn good one. But again, that's just my opinion, and you can do your own research on it. But so let's just take a perspective on this from the technical analysis side and see where this is going to go for the long haul. So as you can tell, I'm looking at it on a monthly chart. If you care to follow any of what I do and you want to see some of what how we're educating, how we're sharing the data, you're welcome to join our channel. Click the like button, subscribe, get more of the stuff. And if you like any of these tools, obviously we'll put the links to those below, as that's what helps us keep providing free information for everybody. You might find useful. So there we go. In here, you will see that this we had back in January of 18. It took a nice spike, then it sat flat for a while, and then we had a nice jump recently last month, but then it pulled back pretty strongly on this. So the larger time frame gives us a better idea in what the market is doing with better data, because there's a lot more that happened in that time frame. Okay, so that being said, obviously this candle what this price wasn't able to sustain up here, and it came all the way down here. Would we have been able to predict that? Possibly. If you are familiar with fibs, you would be able to do an extension from the highest point to the lowest point there, and the extension tells us that a 618 would have been pretty good, and it might have even hit the 2, the doubled up. Nope, almost got there, but not quite. Okay, so what that tells us is, that after the 618, after it hit this little thing, it just ended up pulling back, and now it's sitting below here, and it's come back all the way down into here. So since we are here, oh my goodness, I guess Bitcoin's moving. So since that is such a pullback, now it leads us to believe, well, there might be some pulling back even further into this particular pattern. So let's look at a smaller time frame on the weekly, which is still pretty darn strong. And as you can see, Kraken has some pretty big jumps here. It's not common on every exchange, so we're not going to read too much into that. But what we are going to do, though, is we're starting to see a little bit of a potential pattern of head and shoulders. What does a head and shoulder look like? Let's take from the bottom of here somewhere let's go with that as a shoulder. We're going to go as a low. We're not going to take this one because it was a flash crash here, and roughly I'm going to say around here. I'm going to unlock it in just a moment here, and then could we keep it there? We probably could, but I like to draw my head and shoulders, especially when it's a wick. We're going to do it a little bit flatter here, because that is where it seemed to hit some resistances there, and there. And we're going to keep it around about that level. So I could squeeze it a little bit closer, but I just want the level. So right there, that's the high. And here, if this was to pull down, how far would it go? So let's take the low again. Let's do a Fibonacci here for a retracement. And I want to make sure that this one is locked in place. So we're going to go the low and the high for sure. And generally these tend to retrace to at least the 786, and most likely in crypto the 886, which leads us to believe that there's very possible that it could hit that, and even as low as this if it revisits these prices. And that would be somewhere between the 38 cent and possibly, let's go with this right around here, because we got several points there, and I haven't even touched this. Oh, look at that. Let's just touch that one right there. Look at that right there. Right there, right there, right there. Yep, that could be a zone where it potentially could touch. Now the next zone potentially could be down in this region, these highs right here, which or this low right here, which is almost 100% retracement. Somebody could argue that that I'm not drawing it perfectly. Yeah, you could argue that. If you want to draw a little more precise, you can, but I'm just trying to get a general idea for the long haul. Now, does that mean that it is going to get down to those levels? We don't know yet. One important point to take a look at, and this is one of the few coins that actually can kind of stand, it withstood a little bit of the drawdowns that Bitcoin had, and it didn't seem to pull back quite as strong as Bitcoin. I'm pulling that a little bit so it's a little more level here as we go through this. Here we go, right there. This neckline and particularly this lows right here, they need to hold if this has a chance of trying to push back up. Okay, if it does not hold, then we're looking at the next levels probably between here to down there, and maybe a little further. If you're holding 88, yes, that probably doesn't sound the most attractive, but the markets work in cycles. So if it manages to bounce from here, where might we points that we need to look at? Well, we want to take a look at these points right here, because there's a high, there's a high, there's a high there that need to be considered. Can it break above those? Primarily these ones right here. I just put it from there because that's touched on that too. The closes from here obviously are going to be pretty important, and the high that it had here is pretty important. So if it's going to bounce, it needs to get past those. But it also needs to find support somewhere in this region from here and there. If it can find support there, great. It has a top opportunity for a jump. If it breaks through this support right here, then there's really not a whole lot to be able to help it. Maybe a little bit here, maybe, but not a whole lot. So most likely it's going to end up bouncing. May bounce around a little bit in here, but it'll get down into this area. So, it's really hard to tell. However, with Bitcoin still potentially choosing to dump some, if it is going to dump some more, then ADA is not immune to Bitcoin dumping as well, and alts tend to take a bit of a dive before they start to bounce back up. They usually bounce after Bitcoin does its thing. Now, as far as Bitcoin's concerned, Bitcoin is a large cap, right? So it's one of those that has the majority of the market in it. Ethereum is another large cap. Now, we start getting into ADAs and some of these other coins, they tend to be considered a little bit more mid cap to low cap, meaning that there's not quite nowhere near as much money into these as there is in the higher markets. So in the large caps. So the money tends to flow out of it kind of quickly, and obviously that would affect price, and it tends to come in pretty quickly, which again affects price. Now, let's take the best case scenario and say, okay, you know what, it does bounce, whether it bounces from the bottom or it bounces from the top, and it's saying, well, what would be the next targets that we'd be looking if it manages to break above these highs? Well, the first targets that we're looking at is potentially in this zone right here, between the 414 and the 618. So that would put us at about $4, almost $3.93, $3.40 to $3.45 to $3.93, if that was the case. And if it was to go on some super cycle where it says, you know what, I am going to just skyrocket, then we're looking at these levels up here. And obviously that could be really, really nice if you're holding ADA. Well, because even if we were to pick it up down where it's at right now, or if we were to pick it up down here and it managed to bounce, that's a nice 786% to 926, or even if it hits these levels, you're talking about 240, 300, so 3x, anywhere from 3x to 9x a return. So that would be really nice. However, we are not there yet. So it needs to show that it can break to that upside. And right now, even if I look at this right here, it's telling me that it has not broken above that support, that angled support, resistance, and it needs to get up and break through all this stuff right here. So it's still got a little ways to go, which if you've been waiting and you've been patiently waiting along the sidelines, who knows, there might be some really good interesting points to look at. I'm not telling anybody to do anything, because you can't go off of somebody else's read. However, it would be very interesting to see if that is the prices that it does hit. So that being said, if this was useful to you and you wanna get more of these, then hit that like button. It helps our channel. If you subscribe, you'll get some more of these as we put them out. And if you share with a friend, they would probably really appreciate it. All right, hope you have an amazing day and you end up having lots of fun in the market, being able to generate a lot of fun reads, and from there doing what's appropriate for you. All right, have an amazing day.